Greetings and welcome to Beatles Stuffology, where two friends sit about and hopefully talk BS Beatles stuff on a track-by-track basis, pretty much for the sake of it. My name is McQuarrie, and I'm here with my co-host Andrew Deacon. Say hi, Andrew. Yeah, well, I can't really blame you for that.
It's been the greyest of grey weeks here in UK land.
Yes, it's not been a great week here. It's not the worst week in terms of weeks for countries, I would suggest.
No. I think that's fair. I would think it's probably fair to say that it's a dark week in the United States of America. It is today 9/11, although in the British sense, not the American sense. The 9th of November, and the US election has been a thing.
Yes, it has been a thing. A sad, dark, depressing, bleak thing. So that's our cheerful intro. Thankfully, we have a bright, chirpy, lovable song to...
Yeah, but even then, we have the thought that, if he were alive today, WWJD, what would John do? And I suspect he'd probably do, well, as long as Trump doesn't do anything to annoy me, that's okay. By the way, I'm sorry, it's just occurred to me, something popped up on my YouTube algorithm, which was a Sky TV short from a couple of years ago, which imagined what happened if John Lennon had left the Beatles in 1962. And it just occurs to me that Ian Hart has just been the most consistent John Lennon performer. And I much preferred that to the little clip in that Richard Curtis film of the main character going off to find the John Lennon who had never recorded the Beatles song, studying to be an artist, which I think probably was Ian Hart again, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, so lots of people imagining what John Lennon would be like today if etc. And I guess I've just fallen into that trap, because if you want to escape what's going on, just imagine the world as it could have been.
Well, yes. Now, you see, a better podcast would find some kind of link between Imagine and John Lennon and what we're supposed to be discussing today, but we aren't that podcast. So instead, I'm just going to do a smash cut to the fact that we're supposed to be talking about You Like Me Too Much, which obviously isn't a John Lennon song. This is the kind of level of professionalism, as always, that we manage to approach on this podcast. The problem I feel that we might face here, and the reason we've managed to do about 2 or 3 minutes vamping in the introduction, is that the song we have to talk about this week is You Like Me Too Much.
There's an irony, isn't there, to a song called You Like Me Too Much, when the song actually is just meh. I mean, you could boil the episode down to meh. What? You like me too much? Well, no, actually, I don't. I think you're a perfectly passable 2 minutes of music, but you are merely a bridge from one song to the next.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much putting the nail in the head, hitting the nail in the head. Whatever one does with nails, heads, and hitting, that's the thing you've done. As you might gather, we're going to struggle a bit in this episode. It's because there's just so little there. It's just a song which just commands so little.
Should we let's deal with some of the key things on the UK, i.e. the only acceptable release. It comes after It's Only Love and Act Naturally. So it's not necessarily the strongest side to a Beatles album you're ever going to come across. But after this, it does sort of pick up a little bit as we hurtle slowly towards Yesterday, or the McCartney section of side 2. It's the second song, apparently, the George, well, not so much wrote as successfully managed to get included, although it is also the second song that he, let's just say, wrote, and his second song on the album. And I think that I Need You and You Like Me Too Much were either recorded in the same session or very, very close together, back-to-back days. Mm-hmm. So there was definitely a George Harrison moment. And I think the fairest thing to say from my perspective is that it's kind of a theme with I Need You and not that much of a step up, but it is a step up from Don't Bother Me. At least it's got a little less of that occasional Harrison arrogance to it. So, there's some of the bare bones. He obviously goes on to become so much more prolific. And this is a step on the way, but it's a very small step.
Yes, a tiny step, a shuffle, I won't go so far as to suggest. It's a frustrating song because I don't think that there's really... Oh, I was going to say that I don't think there's really anything here to get your teeth into particularly. I think the few bits that there are, I can only really manage to do that in a sort of critical sense. And particularly, like lyrically, it's kind of weak. It's really got very little to say, and especially that "I really do." It sounds like a 7-year-old in the playground. It's really bad. The rest of it is just undistinguished. It's not good. It's not appalling. But there is a couple of moments like that where it really sinks, and I think it probably does speak to the paucity of material that the band had available. That this was included, something this minor. I mean, when we talked about "I Need You," I wasn't very complimentary about it, and I still don't think it's a terribly good song, but I think it probably is a better song than this. And having this one sort of shuffled away in the middle of side, well, not really the middle of side 2, but kind of in that kind of slightly saggy part of side 2, it's runtime, but I don't really think it ever manages to acquire anything more than that.
Do you not feel that the verse especially has a circular repetitiveness reminiscent of the kind of rub you can wear in a carpet from too much fretful, nervous pacing? That's a lovely description, by the way. This comes from Alan W. Pollock, who wrote notes on an awful lot of Beatles songs. I think I don't necessarily understand a lot of what he says, but I do like the fact it's the kind of rub you can wear into a carpet through too much fretful, nervous pacing. I think that's sort of it. And I wonder if that was always George's mentality. It's like, I've got to get a song out. I've got to get a song out. I'm just going to do this. And he goes round, round, round. So, kudos there. Does make you wonder, doesn't it? How did he have songs rejected?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he did. And I think that sort of round and round is interesting in terms of the way that the song is constructed, because I think it's very similar to the way that McCartney delivers "I've Just Seen a Face." It's got that same kind of da-dum, 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 da-dum. It's kind of very relentless. McCartney kind of...
Do that again. Do that again.
Da-dum, 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 da-dum.
Charge.
Excellent. But it's got that kind of relentlessness to it, which at least helps, I suppose, give the verses like a little bit of momentum behind them. There's a wee bit of drive there. But the thing with McCartney is that on "I've Just Seen a Face," which is spoilers, everyone, not my favorite song, but it's Unbroken. This kind of breaks, and that kind of kills the momentum a wee bit of it. So when you get to the "I really do" bit, the song kind of, it's like it steps on the brakes. It just screeches a wee bit, and then you have to try and build the momentum back up, and it's a bit tiresome, to be honest. Whereas at least with "I've Just Seen a Face," it never lets up until you hit like those final few chords, and then it's done. And so it's able to maintain that sense of pace, that sense of momentum all the way through it.
I wonder if they both almost suffer from having too many chords as well. Almost that sort of thought of, oh my God, we need to make this song interesting. Therefore, hey, let's chuck another little element in, even if the element doesn't quite work.
Well, there's about a dozen chords in this song. So it's there are a decent number of chords in it. And I'm sorry, I'm going to live Google this because I think there's only about 4 chords and I've just seen a face. But before I open my big mouth, I'm just going to check it.
So therefore, while JG is doing that, we can ponder, dear listener, what is a decent number of chords?
I'm right. I'm right. It's got 4 chords.
Okay. Well, we have 3 chords and the truth. Is that a decent number of chords? 4 chords? Calling People by Pulp is renowned as being a 1-chord song. That could be a decent number for the purpose. I don't think
Life During Wartime has 2 chords.
There you go. I'm pretty sure the one I love is fairly flat on it. Anyway,
yeah,
so there's
5. Yeah.
Oh well, yeah. Me and Honey. That's another 1-chord song, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
So there you go. So a decent number of chords is both a digression, some filler, and a philosophical notion that we will forget to return to at some point in the future. Anyway, over to the results in the live Googling.
Yeah, 4 chords. I am 100% correct. So there's 4 chords, and I've just seen a face. So yeah, quite a lot less than this.
So, so does sort of suggest that this one, perhaps there's some filling of the melody, perhaps a lack, maybe that's a lack of confidence in the songwriting ability, whereas you can create a lively melody, whether you like it or not. We'll find out in a few episodes' time. A lively melody in ways other than the number of chords, whereas Mr. Harrison here is perhaps relying on variation rather than, I don't know what word I'm going for here. I was trying not to use the word cleverness, but
Yeah.
I've forgotten what the start of the sentence was. Over to you.
That's fine. I think one of the things with this song is that there is nothing about it that one could describe as clever, and that's kind of the problem. This is one of the things I've mentioned this before in the podcast, that quite often when we're coming up to particular songs, I'll pick up my guitar and I'll try and play it and see how it feels. There are some songs that I've really rocketed up in my estimation when I've picked them up and thought, oh, right, this is a really interesting chord structure, great bass line that I never appreciated before, whatever it is. I think, if anything, this song kind of sank in the other direction. It's a bit fussy with the chords, and in a way that isn't helpful to either the overall structure of the song or the melody that George is singing, or really to anything. It's just kind of there, and it is something weirdly forgettable about it. It just doesn't stick in the mind. It kind of slides off my mind. Even when I was sat down, I picked up my guitar, looked up the chords, I thought, right, I'll play this, and then I thought, I can't really remember how it goes. And then I had to get the album out and listen to it and go, oh, right, yeah, it's that one. It never happens, or almost never happens with Beatles songs. Although, spoilers, it is going to happen with the next one. But generally speaking, that doesn't happen. It's incredibly inconsequential, and there's just nothing in it that sort of sticks in my mind.
But remember where we've just come from, effectively, which is Beatles for Sale.
Yeah.
And I think if this was on Beatles for Sale, we'd probably be talking about it in a slightly more positive sense, because it has definitely. It definitely has a little bit more of a feel to it in terms of melody. So, context. It's not great, but yeah.
Well, again, even looking back across this side, for all that we were, we were pretty complimentary about Act Naturally. It's got a nice little tune. It's memorable. It sticks in the back.
Character.
Yeah, and it's again, it's a very simple, kind of straightforward kind of country song, but it works really well. It doesn't have to be flashy. It doesn't have to have, a big, a dozen chords in it or whatever, but it really sticks in the mind. And this is kind of the flip side. We've had songs even just on this album where we've seen that kind of progression. So the fact that this feels like such a retrograde step says something about the songwriting. I don't like the way you're smiling there.
That's purely, dear listener, because the cat just knocked over my microphone. She's about to do it again. Yeah. The cat is not normally present for recordings, but because I'm in the house on my own, the door is open, and she's normally sleeping at this point. And despite the fact she's been in the room listening to us, she's still awake, and trying to curl up on my lap. And in doing so, knocking over my microphone. So yeah, I agree with everything you just said, even though, to be honest, I was focusing more on the thing, which ironically is probably what I was doing when I was listening to the song. Look, let's sort of locate this within, the George oeuvre, as it were. It's part of his moany, whiny period, really, isn't it?
Definitely.
Before he gets his Eastern transcendentalism period, and then before he goes more into his bliss, loved up kind of beautiful songs towards the end. So I suppose there's the psychedelic weird Savoy truffle period as well. But he's learning his craft, and come on, George, hurry up and learn it a bit quicker if you don't mind. But yeah, we'll come across this sort of arrogance again a little bit later, notably Taxman. but certainly in terms of instrumentation, he is going to rock it pretty soon. So let's just be grateful that he got his mistakes out of the way. Then for the second song he's alleged to have written, and the two songs he's got on the album, I think I probably said this with the last Harrison song. It if you compare it to other people's second and third release songs, it's not that bad.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason I'm not feeling in a very forgiving mood towards this song. I intellectually understand what you're saying and agree with it, but I don't, however, I don't really like, in my heart of hearts, like I don't know. It doesn't, that excuse for some reason isn't landing with me this time. And when we talked about "I Need You," we said something very similar. Yeah, this is somebody's second or third song. We didn't get to see the multiple rubbish songs that got written as a Lennon-McCartney original, and we just
all the danger.
Exactly. We just skip over that and we head straight into whatever's on "Please Please Me," and that's also true and fair. And it's maybe not fair to compare George's immediate work to that, but I don't know. I find it hard to make excuses for this song. I think you said this was a better song than "Don't Bother Me," but actually, I'm not sure it is. I think "Don't Bother Me" sticks in my head more. I think the worst thing a Beatles song can be is sort of boring or inconsequential, which is what I think this is. And "Don't Bother Me" isn't a great song by any stretch of the imagination, but I remember it. If I just go "Don't Bother Me," I think, oh yeah, right, well I can hum the tune to it, or right, like I can remember some of the words. It sticks in my way, and like even now talking about it, I was looking at the lyrics like 2 minutes ago, and I've already forgotten what they are. We'd have to go back and look them up. This is so nothing in my head sticks in this song. So actually, I think this is worse than "Don't Bother Me."
It's got some piano in it.
Yeah, the other George desperately tried to write to the rescue, but with limited success, I think I might suggest.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, people don't really come to the podcast at all, but people don't really come for that sort of major dissection, and I think they just look two middle-aged blokes chatting nonsense. So we could talk about the F natural being melodically sustained against the following D major chord, but they'd know I'd just be reading it off the screen. Thank you very much, Mr. Pollock. It's I believe a word you used to use quite a lot in the days when we could have had a Stuffology bingo card would be perfunctory.
Yes.
And it sort of feels like the playing's perfectly fine, the singing's okay, the lyrics have been written, and they generally have some English words in them that kind of go together in sentences, and that's good enough. But then it wasn't written for the film. It was written to flesh out the album, and I suppose if we're being truthful, most of the songs on side 2, with one and a bit noticeable exceptions, really just fall into that songs that were good enough, even if they'd been written at the time. They're not really good enough to be in the film.
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly reasonable assessment. Shall we just give this a score and move on with our lives?
Oh yeah, let's give it a generous 4.
That is generous. I think I'm probably going to go with a 3 on this. So yeah, low numbers, but I don't think I can really justify giving it anything else. Yeah, the worst thing it can be is forgettable, and I am happy to forget about it. Good. Silence.
I don't know if you were waiting for me. I was waiting for you to go, and you could really get a hold of us.
Yeah, well, you can, and that's what I'm going to do. You can get a hold of us by email. We are BeatlesStuffology@gmail.com. We are on whatever is left of Twitter @Beatles_ology, and we're Beatles Stuffology on Instagram. You can also find my blog at www.jgmcquarrie.scot, where I write about film and TV and music and sometimes restaurants or just whatever I fancy. And that's Nice. Please like, rate, and review us so that other people can find the podcast. It's the way that people discover us, and it would be nice if more people could. Next episode, of course, we carry on through the album, and we move from one forgettable song to Tell Me What You See. And, as always, we hope you're going to join us for us. But, until then, keep listening.